Hi guys, my name is Nicolas. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for coming. Some of you come from very far away from Granby. I'm super honored. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'll talk about golden testing in Flutter today. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Nicolas, Nick. I'm a software engineer. I'm working with Flutter for 3 years now. Before that, I was doing React Native from the very beginning of React Native, like 10 years ago, I think. That's how I entered the mobile development ecosystem. Before that, I was doing web development with React, AngularJS, and some other frameworks I don't dare to mention out loud. I'm working at Base One. A few of my buddies are here, Luis and Kaizo. Thank you for coming. We are a company based in Montreal and Victoria, BC. We have 1 people in New York, 1 people in Brazil as well. And we are offering a mobile platform specialized in e-commerce. Or e-commerce platform specialized in mobile. This works as well. We provide a mobile development accelerator for clients who need help with their mobile app if they don't have any, or if they have one that they want to replace. We provide a modular solution. We integrate with multiple backends like Shopify, Salesforce, SAP, you name it. Also provide an console. So let's dive into the topic, golden testing. Are we all familiar with the concept of tests in software engineering? Yeah? We write code to make sure that all the code works correctly. That's the gist of it, right? In the case of golden testing, what we test are widgets. So it all starts with a widget. We move there, so I have my free hand here, so left side. So first thing we do is to render that widget in an image. Oh, but I'm not on the camera anymore. Okay. That's a good idea. We render the widget into an image. Flutter can do that easily because Flutter uses a graphic engine, and this image is basically a frame of that graphic engine saved on the file system. And the core concept of golden testing is to consider this image as the reference, the source of truth. So it's golden in the sense of like sacred, that's the reference, that's what the widget should look like. So we push that image in version control, we add that to Git, push that on our Git repo, alongside the widget, alongside the test, and it becomes part of our code base. Then, days later or months later, you or someone else in your team update the widget. It may not be the widget directly, it could be like one of the child widgets or even somewhere in the apps that have consequences on the widget output. And when running Flutter test again, we render the widget into a new image. And this image is compared to the reference. 2 things can happen. 1, the image is the same, so the test passes. Perfect, you make sure that you have no regression, no UI change, you can go with your change. Or, the image is different. In that case, you have to think, like, are those changes expected or not? Maybe you have changed something in, let's say, the card page, and the golden test of your settings page is broken because the widget is reused in that page and you were unaware of it. So you may have introduced a regression, so you have to check. So you have to go back to your code, investigate, debug, while doing your job. Or the changes are expected. If I'm actively developing something on the UI, my golden test is modified. So the changes are expected. If I'm happy with the change, if it looks good, I open the image, I can see what's going on. If I'm happy with it, I can run Flutter test again with a special argument named -- update goldens. and it makes the new image, the new reference, the new golden. You push that in Git, it becomes part of your code base, and this is it. You are ready for the next iteration. That's the whole concept of golden testing. Are there any questions so far? Yeah?
What format are the images, and they just overload your repo real quick?
It's a PNG file, so it's compressed. You have only one per test cases, so you don't have like dozens of images that are generated every time. When the image is generated, only the golden is actually on the file system, so the ones stay in memory, in bytes. So there is a bit of overload in memory, for instance, because you have like big byte array in memory. But because we work with like not the physical size, but the, I don't remember, but on every device you have the pixel ratio. So one
PPI.
Yeah. So you work with the real, well, not the physical size, but the software size.
Density.
Yeah. So the golden image are quite small because they take that pixel ratio into account. So it's fine. It works fine. Okay. Demo time. Channel microphone. One, two, 1, 2. So, setup, sorry about that. Yeah. I have created a Flutter application with Flutter Create, and I have opened it in Android Studio and launched it in my iOS simulator. Oh, no, I forgot to do that. So I do that now. Here we go. It won't be too long because it's the very vanilla Flutter Create application. You know the counter application? I haven't changed anything. Here we go. So you may say, what is that? You know, you are used to the blue application with the round button, etc. But in Flutter 3.10, as I've updated it to this purple aquarel theme, and it's using material free. Okay, so we have a page. So let's make a golden test out of it. I already have a widget test here, which is a standard widget test. Standard widget test make assumption on the widget tree. It's widget tree manipulation, whereas golden tests are rendering the widget tree. So I keep the first line because I will use it, but all the expectation here can remove that. A bit of cleanup. Here we go. So generating images, compare them pixel by pixel to another images, etc. takes time. So it's asynchronous. I have to use expect later instead of just expect. I wait for it, and it takes 2 arguments. One is the widget I want to render. In that case, I will render this scaffold, so I have the whole page rendered. Here we go, and the matcher is dedicated for widget test. Its name matches golden file. It takes a file name, so it will be homepage.png, and it's not find.by, it's find by. What is the find? How do you get a widget? I don't remember. Sorry. Find dot. Oh, by type. Sorry about that. Yes, of course. Good. And let's run the test. So run Flutter test. It takes a few seconds. And it failed. It actually failed because it said that couldn't be compared to non-existent facts. So yes, the first time you create a test case, there is nothing to compare. So you have to use the option that actually follows the generation of the golden. Update golden. In that case, it's more create, but whatever. Now the test pass, and in my project, I can see I have now homepage PNG, and if I open it, yay! There is room for improvements. I know. Okay, we'll take care of that. So first, the fonts are rendered using a debug font named AHAM that render every character in a square. So it's not meant to be visible, just a debug thing. And the icon is not here. The screen size is different, so we will tackle all those issues now. The first thing I will do is to override the platform, the target platform. So you can see that the title in the bar is on the left, whereas it's centered in my iOS simulator. That's the difference between iOS and Android. So by default, the target platform is Android, which is not surprising. So we have debug, override, default target platform override, and you set that to target platform dot iOS. And for some reason, I have to set it back to its original value. Otherwise, the test fails. So here we go. I run the test again. The test failed. And it says that pixel test failed, 1.81% diff detected. I have changed the alignment on the title, so that's why. If I go in my test folder, I have a failures folder that has been generated that contains the golden master image and the test image. So you can see on the image that has just been generated, that's the title center. That's what I want. I also have an image named isolated diff, so it's generated for debugging purposes. So in that image, it's a transparent PNG where all the pixels that are different are, well, not transparent. So it helps focusing on what is different between the two. And sometimes it's very tiny, like the rounded corner of some widget lost in your page, so it's very useful to have that. I check the golden image, I'm happy with the result, so I run the command again with -- update goldens. And that's it. So now I can take care of the font issue. So the font in my simulator is a default iOS font, which is San Francisco. On Android, it's Roboto. So I will have to load that San Francisco font in order to have my text rendered in my golden image. Let's do this. So for that, I need to know which font this is. So I say San Francisco. So Flutter default font. What is the default font family of a Flutter app? Here we go. On iOS, that's SFUI. There are two actually: SFUI text, SFUI display. Font file. Let's download that font from this website, for instance. So it's in dev, test, lib, sorry, not lib, but actually test. Create a folder name font. Okay, now the same with SFUI display. Good. Back to my IDE. Here we go. So I have two font to load, so I will externalize that in a method. It's asynchronous, load, font. I need the family name, I need the path. It's asynchronous. So let's start by, I don't know, like reading the file. Path, okay. Then I need the content of the file. And then I need a font loader. And the family name is actually name. Font loader dot add font. So it requires a byte data, whereas my byte here are uint 8 list. So I have a bit of transformation to do. View takes a buffer, and the buffer comes from byte.buffer. Here we go. No. Can be assigned. Oh, it's a future. Okay, yeah. So you make a value out of it. Good. And now I will load my font. So I'm using a method named setupAll that is run before all my tests. So I load my font once and for all. It's asynchronous as well. And I wait for load font. The name is this one. And the path is this one. Let's duplicate that for the second one. Display. Okay. What does it look like? All tests pass, meaning that my test is the same, which is not what I want. Oh yeah. So I added the font, but then I have a step that is font loader dot loads here. Okay. 3.78% comparison. And my master image was this, and now my test is rendering this. Yay! Thank you. Okay, so next thing, the screen size. Screen size is quite easy. I have an API directly on the testers variable here. View.physical size, and it takes a size object. So what are the size of my device? This is iPhone 13. So I go to iPhone 13 screen size. I found this page, for instance, where it's detailed here. Perfect. Excellent. Here we go. From now on, I will update the golden directly, okay? It was just to show you like not the normal workflow, but now I'm actively doing UI development. I run the golden test every time. I update the golden test every time. Yeah. So this is my image. It starts to look like the simulator. It's a bit more longer because I haven't taken into account those dead area on the top and on the bottom. And I have the dimension of those. It's 37 by 38, 34. So just this little adjustment here, minus 44. It's physical pixels, so I multiply by the pixel ratio. run the test again. And here we go, so slightly different. Yeah, so you can see that the image is cropped a little bit. That's because I opened the image before it was generated. I opened it too soon, so I close it, reopen it. No, it's fine, it happens sometimes. So last thing is the icon. The icon is actually a character in a special font, the material icon font. So I will reuse my code completely. I will just have to duplicate that block here. The family name is material icon, and the font file is actually shipped into the Flutter SDK, so I can copy it directly from my file system. So it's in opt/flutter/bin cache artifact material font. Here we go, OTF file, and I copy that in the font folder. Here we go, it's here. Let's do it again. And now I have the plus icon. Awesome. You can notice the thick solid border around the button. That's actually the shadow that is rendered by this solid border instead. That's because Flutter don't guarantee that the shadow is generated perfectly every time with the exact same opacity for all pixels. So they kind of like work around by replacing all the font by all the shadows by this thick border. There is a parameter to remove it, I think. I can do debug, disable shadows, yeah. Equal true. False, actually, yeah. And below it's true. Set it back to its default value. Let's do it again. Oops. And now I have the shadow. Don't clap, it doesn't worth it. It's just like, no, it's fine. Yeah, thank you. That was the demo. So back to my slide, switch off microphone again. 1, 2, yeah. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about why I like golden testing, why I think it's underrated. And I think it comes down to the fact that it's easy to write. This is a simple use case, but it's real. There is no cheating here. It's really just those two instructions. You pump the widget, and then you call the expectation to render the golden file, and that's it. You may have more complex widget with that require a bit of context settings, etc. But like 90% of the time, golden test case takes like less than 10 minutes code. All the boilerplate I wrote during the demo, it's 100% reusable. So you wrote it once, and that's it. And this is the key actually, because test is all about time. Maybe not in open source or personal project, but in the industry, test is all about time. Test must spare you more time than it costs to write. If it's not the case, don't do test, it makes things worse, right? So this is a time investment when you write a test. And when that investment is low, the better. Other thing is visual feedback is better than text feedback. The image is super powerful to know what's going on. You open an image, you immediately understand what's happened. It's the same thing when you write something. If you write an essay or blog post or something on social media, illustration, photo is the key for your reader because that's what our human brain are immediately attracted to, right? So it's the same for a golden test. More than that, more than just text feedback, It also gives you information about your project itself. It's more than just a test result. It can replace, in certain cases, documentation or description. For instance, let's imagine that my demo project is real, and my product owner told me to switch the theme from blue to red. I implement the change, run the test again, update the golden image, push everything on GitHub, open a PR, ask my teammate to review, and that's what they see. Because when you update an image, the diff on GitHub, it's exactly the same on Bitbucket, on I guess GitLab. It displays the old image and the new image side by side. So, is there a better description than this?
No need to upload.
Exactly, that's the thing right there. Other use case I have in mind, we use custom icon because our client came with his own set of icon. So we use Flutter icon to upload our custom icon. It generates for us the font file and the class to use the icon in the very same way we use the material icon. It's very convenient, except that we don't know which is which. So the dot class contains all the variable name, but we don't have the glyph that correspond to each variable. And the font file on the opposite contains all the glyphs, but we have no idea which variable we have to write. So what I did is I render all those icons in a widget, a grid, and make a golden of that grid. This is it. So in addition to have a test, I also have like technical documentation. Our developers use that every day. Well, not every day, but each time they need an icon. Good. Yeah.
What happened to the ad business and credit score icon?
Ad business. Luis, what happened to the ad business icon and credit score?
Like blank.
Oh yeah.
Good question. You may have found a bug we haven't spotted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Credit score also.
The
Yeah. Good catch. To be honest, I don't know. Yeah. Tough question.
They should use Goldens.
Yeah. A couple of resources. So like I said, golden tests are a bit underrated, meaning that there is not a lot of resources out there, but we have a couple of packages. The most common is Golden Toolkit, made by eBay for their own application, so not the eBay application, but one of their secondary application, eBay Motors. It's quite old. I discovered that 3 years ago. That's how I actually discovered the golden test. By reading this interesting blog post I recommend. It's a good read. They explain the best practices, why they came up with the package. It comes with the concept of scenario. So it's a widget wrapper that instantiates your widget in all different configuration of different set of parameters or screen size or scales. So in the unique image, you see all the form variants your widget can have. Pretty convenient. More recently, there is Alchemist. It's more or less the same thing, goes a little bit further by providing like extra features that was missing in the first one. To be honest, I don't use any of those. There is nothing you can do with those packages that you can't do by hand. So yeah, I don't use those, but I took inspiration and a piece of code from those packages. The Flutter SDK itself is using golden testing, like heavily. There are more than 1,000 test cases in the Flutter SDK itself. You can see that on GitHub. Flutter / and if I search for the expectation matches golden file, yeah, I have multiple occurrences, and they really test the material and Cupertino widget with golden test, as well as they go very low levels. So for instance, I spot some test cases for the rounded corner of the text decoration. So it's a very tiny golden, like 10 pixel by 10 by 10 pixel. I tried to look into those PNG files. They are not in the repo. I thought they were, but they are not. So I investigate that, see how it's built, etc. And I found out that they have actually made a whole infrastructure outside the repo to dedicated to golden image analysis. So if you go to fluttergold.skya.org, you can see all the images here with detail. So this is where you can recognize the data picker from iOS. It's linked with the GitHub history. There are a ton of metrics, the zoom, when you can actually navigate pixel by pixel inside the image to see what's going on. Quite impressive. Okay. I haven't covered the image loading in my demo. I mentioned the font loading, but there's also boilerplate needed for images. Images need to be mocked in your test. A couple of packages out there. Network image mock is by far the most common use. I don't use it because I use cache network image, and I came up with an alternative. I wrote my own cache manager to load a test asset. So the cache network image library is tricked into thinking that the image is cached, but it's actually not. So it works nice. I wrote a blog post on Flutter community to talk about that. So you can check that as well. Yeah, a couple of use cases. So the main use case is UI testing, regression testing. It's great at that. But I also, because it's easy, I also use it for to test my business logic. So this is a web page of our admin console. It's implemented with Flutter Web, so it's all widgets, so I can make a test out of it, just like every other widget. So this is the code. Once again, no cheating here. It's really the only code necessary, and the column on the right. And I figured, like, okay, my form has some mandatory field. I'd like to cover that by my test as well. So I mixed with widget test instruction. I grab my submit button, tap on it, pump a new frame, generate a new golden, and give me a new golden with my title, body, topic, push notification field. Highlight it so I can test my form validation as well, which is not only UI, it's more like business logic. It's still business logic that have direct consequences of UI. So I went a little bit further, and on that push notification setting, if I click on yes and then click on publish, I want to display a warning saying that be careful, you are about to send a push notification for real to thousands of users. So don't say like this is a text because they will receive that on the device for real. So I really want that feature to be tested because it's crucial. I want that dialogue to show up. So what I did is to pump not the message form but its parent when this logic is implemented. I add a new line to click on the yes button. And here we go. I have a new golden showing my dialogue. So you may think that this is bad in a way, because my tests start to cover a lot of things. I'm testing my form UI, my dialog UI, the trigger that open the dialog. So the test can fail for all those reasons. And we try in unit tests to have separation of concern. Each test case tests one thing. So it's not the case here, but it's an image, right? So when the tests fail, I just open the image and I immediately see what's going on again. So it's not a pain at all. So it's good, at least good enough for me. Last part, is it all unicorn, rainbow, pink, wonderful world? Well, no, there are some limitations. A couple of them. One is it doesn't support font weight. Well, it supports font weight, but there is a huge restriction saying that you can have only one font weight per font family. So if I want this code, display well in my simulator or emulator, one line is regular, one line is bold, but in the golden image, it renders like this. You can either don't care, like I do, or work around by using different font family. So you will have like font family, like Roboto regular, Roboto bold, and instead of changing the font weight, you change the font family. But like I said, I don't have much that variety for font weight in my app, so I get along with this, no problem. Text can render differently on execution platforms. So this is a problem. If half of your team is using a MacBook like I do, or the other half is using a Linux, if I generate a golden, then the comparison will fail on the other platform because Flutter can't guarantee that the text are rendered exactly the same on Linux, Linux, Windows, or macOS. That's because text rendering is delegated to the platform, so they have no control on that. And the AM font, the font that renders a little square, is actually made for that very purposes. So when you're using the square font, it's by default, it's a little bit better, it's a little bit more consistent, but I still had the issue. It's not pixel perfect, the test still failed. I had the problem, so not with my teammates, but with the CI. I was using a Bitbucket pipeline, and Bitbucket pipeline doesn't support macOS, so I was using Linux. So all my golden tests generated on my MacBook weren't valid. I know that you can custom the threshold, so it's no longer pixel perfect comparison. It's like you can say that the test failed only if the pixel is like 1% different or greater. So I guess with those combination of those two parameters, you can work something out. But my actual workaround was to not using Bitbucket pipeline because I needed to build for iOS anyway. And lastly, platform view need to be marked. So platform view is a low-level widget used by all widgets that are not Flutter, like WebView, Google Map, any native UI library that integrates with Flutter is using platform view. So basically, open a rectangle in your Flutter view, and the UI in that rectangle is delegated to the native layer. And when I'm running my golden test, it's my good old MacBook running it. So it doesn't have like Google Map or whatever, it doesn't have the native side. So what you do is to mock the channel used by the platform view. It's a message queue between the Flutter world and the native world to like communicate. So if you write this piece of code, you trick the platform view into thinking that something is responding. There's nothing, display blank, but at least your test pass, and you can still render the rest of the screen. I think that's all I have. Thank you for listening. I'm more than open to question. I don't know. I didn't really track my time, so I don't know if yeah.
Maybe we can take 2 questions.
Oh, okay.
What about that?
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check. Okay. So what happens if you need to mock data, like you have a database or that kind of stuff, or like a backend that you need to connect to?
Yeah. So this is not specific to Golden. In every in every test, you have to care about data. Hard coding data. Hard coding, like hard coding the data, is what we do mostly. Yeah, hard coding the data when you get it. Yeah.
I think if you want to try the thing is, I think you have to test only the widget, not the whole page, right? So as you show, the form is the widget form, not the whole page. So for example, if you have state management, how do you test that?
So most of the time, indeed, you don't test the widgets directly. So this one, for instance, work on his own. I don't. When I said that was the real code, I didn't lie. there is no. The message form works on its own. It doesn't need anything to display. But it's true that sometimes you need some context, some state management to look into your widgets. If you are using a block builder inside your widget, for instance, the block needs to exist. So most of the time, we don't render the widget directly. We render the widget shipped inside a custom widget to just declare above. Yeah.
So you will recommend to use this more like for specific custom widget instead of the whole page? Or?
The simpler, the better. Yes. The scope of your of what you test is actually defining if you are doing like more a unit test or more an integration test. So testing the whole page like this looks like an integration test where I test multiple widgets at one, whole widget tree at once. If I choose to test only this table, for instance, it will be more a unit test, and the smaller is the scope, the easier it is to mock generally.
Cool. I think you have more questions?
I have one.
Later.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's already off time, so I think we can have 15-minute break, and then second talk, and then we're going to have some kind of general QA time. So if you have more questions, feel free to ask at the session.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.